In our last telling, you witnessed a miracle wrought in iron and destiny. A boy unknown pulled forth a blade from living stone, and Britain beheld her king. Young Arthur, raised in humble shadow, stood crowned before a realm that knew not whether to kneel or to rebel. But claiming a crown and keeping a kingdom, these are trials as different as lightning from its thunder. Tonight, we follow Arthur through tempest and through trial. We shall walk beside him as swords shatter and are reborn in magic, as a fellowship of knights gathers round a table where all sit as equals, as empires challenge and are met with steel and courage. This is the forging of a kingdom. This is how legends are hammered upon the anvil of fate. So settle deeper into your rest. Let the world beyond these words fade like stars at dawn. Our tale continues. Chapter 1: The Rebellion of Lords. Not all Britain bent the knee when the sword sang free from stone. In the great halls of the north, in the western keeps where sea wind carries salt and ancient songs. In the fortresses of lords who had ruled since Arthur's father drew breath. There, in those shadowed chambers, rebellion took root like thorns in fertile ground. 11 kings, each mighty in his own domain, gathered in council most grim. Their faces bore the lines of battles won, of years spent holding back the darkness at their borders. They had no love for boy kings, no patience for what they deemed false pretense. King Lot of Orkney rose first, a warrior whose very shadow seemed to carry weight. "They bid us bow," he said, voice rough as winter seas, to one who was but yesterday a squire in some forgotten hall. "Where was this Arthur when we bled to keep these lands? Who speaks for his lineage? What right has he save pulling steel from stone, a conjurer's trick, perhaps, wrought by that meddling wizard Merlin?" Murmurs of assent rippled through the assembly. King Uriens of Gaul, King Caradoc, King Nentis. Each commanded armies, held castles that had never fallen, bore honor earned in fire and blood. "We shall test this boy," King Lot declared, and his words fell like the ceiling of a tomb. "Let him prove himself in the crucible where all true kings are tempered. Let him face us in the field, and we shall see if Merlin's puppet bleeds like other men." In Camelot's high tower, Arthur stood at the window as twilight gathered. Below, in the courtyards, his men made ready for war. The ring of hammer on anvil, the whetstone's whisper against blade, the low voices of soldiers speaking prayers to gods both old and new. Merlin appeared beside him as silently as thought itself. The wizard's eyes, ancient beyond reckoning, reflected the dying light. "They mean to destroy me," Arthur said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They mean to test you," Merlin corrected, and there was something almost kind in his tone. "To test is not to destroy, young king. Steel is tested in the forge, and emerges stronger for the trial." Arthur turned from the window. "I have but few who believe in me. They are 11, each with armies at their back. Then we shall find you allies," Merlin said, "who see not what you were, but what you shall become." Swift riders departed before dawn broke, carrying Arthur's seal across the narrow sea. To the courts of France they rode, where two kings held sway in wisdom and in might. King Ban of Benwick received the messenger in a hall where tapestries told of Charlemagne and Roland, a valor that transcended mortal years. He broke the wax seal with careful fingers, read the words that Arthur had himself penned. The boy asks for aid, Ban said to his brother Bors, who sat in the chair beside him. King Bors, whose beard was white as winter snow but whose eyes held the fire of youth, considered this. The boy offers friendship freely given, with no demand save trust. There is more honor in that than in a dozen treaties sworn under duress. I, Ban agreed. We shall sail. The Battle of Bedtime came with autumn's first breath. Imagine, if you can, a valley where mist clung to earth like the spirits of ages past. The grass, still wet with dew, stretched between two great hosts. On one side stood the rebel kings with their banners of ancient lineage, the raven, the boar, the red dragon of the north. On the other, Arthur's smaller force, their standards newly made, yet carried with belief that transcends mere cloth and dye. The air held that peculiar stillness before violence, when even the birds fall silent and the world seems to hold its breath. Arthur sat his horse, a white destrier that seemed to sense its rider's tension, at the center of his line. He wore his father's armor, polished to mirror brightness, and at his side hung the sword from the stone. His was not the largest army. His soldiers were not the most seasoned in war's dark arts. But they believed. And belief, sometimes, is a keener weapon than the sharpest steel. He was 18 summers old, and never yet had he led men into death's domain. Merlin stood nearby, leaning upon his staff of ancient oak. Remember, the wizard murmured, voice for Arthur's ears alone, a battle is a conversation writ in motion. Listen to what your enemy speaks with every movement, every charge. War is chess played with living pieces. The rebel lords attacked as the sun burned away the mist. First came the thunder. Not of sky but of earth, as cavalry charged across the valley floor, whose drummed a rhythm old as mankind's first wars. Then the crash of shield on shield, that sound like the world itself breaking. Men shouted in triumph and in terror. In courage summoned from wells they knew not they possessed. Steel rang against steel in that terrible symphony. Swords met swords, axes split shields, arrows sang their deadly songs through air grown thick with dust and destiny. Arthur fought as though Britain's every future hung upon his blade, and perhaps it did. He was not the strongest warrior, nor the most skilled in arms. But there was something in him, some quality ineffable, that made men rally when they saw him ride past. When he called them forward, they came. When he stood firm, they held their ground though the earth itself seemed to shake. The battle turned and turned again, a thing of flux and chaos, like storm waves upon a shore. Then, from the eastern ridge where the sun now climbed, fresh banners appeared against the morning sky. The golden lions of Benwick, the silver eagles of Bors. King Ban and King Bors had arrived with dawn at their backs. Their French knights gleaming in new light, and they crashed into the rebel flank like the wrath of heaven itself. The tide shifted. The rebel kings, seeing their lines buckle and break like pottery dropped upon stone, chose the wisdom of survival over the pride of victory. By noon, when the sun stood high and pitiless over the field, the Battle of Bedtime was ended. Arthur walked among the aftermath, Merlin beside him like a shadow grown old. Around them, men tended to the wounded with gentle hands. The screams had faded to groans, the clash of arms to the murmur of prayers and the weeping of those who would weep. "They will come again," Arthur said, his face pale beneath the grime of battle. "Some will," Merlin acknowledged. "But others shall remember that you gave mercy to those who laid down their swords." A king who rules by fear alone builds his kingdom upon sand, and the tides of time wash all such castles away. Yet as they walked, both knew the truth unspoken between them. This victory was but a single page in a much longer tale, and the sword that won this day would not be enough for days yet to come. And so it came to pass that Arthur learned his first lesson in kingship, that winning a battle is not the same as winning peace. The rebel lords retreated to their holdings, some chastened, others merely biding time. But fate, that spinner of threads both dark and bright, had more in store for Britain's young king. Sometimes, legends are born not in victory, but in loss. Chapter 2, Excalibur, the Sword of Sovereignty. 3 months after Bedtime, on a morning when frost still kissed the meadow grass, Arthur rode out with but a handful of knights to patrol the northern marches. It was meant to be a simple journey, a showing of the king's face to those who dwelt far from Camelot's gleaming towers. Fate, however, cares little for the plans of men. In a clearing where oak trees grew ancient and gnarled, they encountered King Camelot, that knight renowned throughout the land for his prowess in arms. Camelot had not attended the gathering at Bedtime. He was a solitary soul who spent his days in quest of the questing beast, that creature of legend and nightmare. He knew not the young man before him was the king. "Stand aside," Camelot commanded, his voice echoing within his great helm. "This is my road, and I suffer no man to pass unchallenged." Arthur, with the pride of youth and the confidence of recent victory, dismounted. "I am Arthur, King of Britain, and I shall not stand aside for any man." "King or commoner," Camelot replied, drawing his sword, "all are equal before the test of arms." They fought there in the clearing, and it was a battle most fierce. Camelot was a warrior of great renown, his skill honed by years of solitary combat against all manner of foes. Arthur, for all his courage, was yet young in the ways of single combat. Blade met blade in the ancient dance of death. They circled, struck, parried, each seeking the opening that would end the contest. The forest rang with the sound of their combat. Then, with a blow that seemed to shake the very trees, Camelot's sword descended upon the blade Arthur carried, that sword pulled from the stone, that symbol of his rightful claim. And it shattered. The sound was not a ring of steel, but a crack like winter ice breaking upon a frozen lake. Fragments of the blade flew through the air, catching the light like falling stars. The sword that had proven Arthur's kingship lay broken in the grass. Arthur stood defenseless, his hand still gripping a useless hilt. Pellinore raised his blade for the killing stroke. And Merlin appeared between them, staff raised, words of power falling from his lips like thunder-given voice. Pellinore fell into enchanted sleep before his blow could land. When the knight woke hours later, Merlin had explained all, and Pellinore knelt in the grass before Arthur, pledging his sword and his life to the king's service. But Arthur barely heard the words. He stared at the broken blade in his hands, at the fragments of what had made him king. "What am I now?" he asked quietly, "without the sword that proved my right?" Merlin's expression was unreadable. "Come," the wizard said. "There is something you must see." They rode for 2 days, north and east, into lands where few men dwelt and magic still lingered like morning mist. At last they came to a lake. But what a lake it was! Imagine, dear listener, a mirror of water so still it might have been crafted from polished silver. Ancient trees circled its shores, their branches reaching toward the water like supplicants in prayer. The air itself seemed different here, cleaner, older, as though they had stepped outside of time into a place where the first dawn still held sway. Mist drifted across the surface, moving with purpose rather than with wind. "What is this place?" Arthur whispered, for it seemed a place where even whispers might be too loud. "This," Merlin said, "is one of the thin places where the world of men touches the realm of the Fae. Long have I known of it, and long have I waited for the day when you would have need of what waits beneath these waters. Look," the wizard commanded, pointing toward the lake's heart. The mist parted as though drawn back by invisible hands. And from the center of the lake, rising slow and majestic, came an arm. It was clad in white silk, mystic and wonderful. The hand that emerged from the water held aloft a sword, and even from the shore, Arthur could see that this was no mortal blade. Light seemed to live within the steel itself, not reflecting the sun, but glowing with its own radiance, as though stars had been trapped in metal and made to sing. The sword blazed with such brilliance that Arthur had to shield his eyes. "Excalibur," Merlin breathed. "The sword of kings." As they watched in wonder, the waters near the shore began to ripple, though no wind stirred the air. And walking upon the surface of the lake as though it were solid ground came a woman of such beauty that Arthur felt his breath catch in his throat. She was neither young nor old, neither entirely of this world nor wholly beyond it. Her gown flowed like water-made fabric, shifting between blue and silver and the green of deep places. Her hair fell to her waist in waves that seemed to hold the light of the moon. Her eyes were ancient, wise, and filled with secrets that mortal men were not meant to know. "I am the Lady of the Lake," she said. And her voice was like the sound of water over smooth stones, musical and ageless. "Guardian of Excalibur, keeper of the old covenants." She turned those timeless eyes upon Arthur. "You have come for the sword." It was not a question. The sword you bore was sufficient to prove your claim. The lady continued, but it was never meant to last. The blade that pulled you from obscurity has served its purpose. Now you need a weapon worthy of the king you must become. She gestured toward the arm still rising from the lake's center. Excalibur was forged in Avalon, in times before time, by craft that is now lost to the world. Its edge will never dull. Its blade will cleave through any armor, any shield. It is a sword of sovereignty, meant for those who would rule justly and defend the weak. Arthur found his voice at last. What must I do to claim it? The lady smiled, and it was like sunrise breaking over still waters. You need only take it. But know this, young king, and here her expression grew solemn, with this blade comes responsibility beyond measure. Those who bear Excalibur cannot turn from justice, cannot ignore the cry of the oppressed, cannot choose ease over duty. Can you bear such a burden? Arthur met her gaze without flinching. I can. I will. Then take a boat, the lady said, and claim what is yours by right. A small vessel appeared at the shore, carved from a single piece of white wood that seemed to glow with its own soft light. Arthur stepped into it, and though he had never rowed such a craft, it moved smoothly across the mirror surface as though guided by unseen hands. The lake was silent save for the gentle lap of water against the boat's sides. The world seemed to hold its breath. When Arthur reached the center, the arm still held Excalibur aloft, steady as stone despite the water beneath. Arthur reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and grasped the sword's hilt. The moment his fingers closed around it, power flowed through him like lightning through a storm cloud. It was not pain, but it was overwhelming. A sense of connection to something vast and ancient. To the very land itself, to all the kings who had come before and all who would come after. The arm released its hold and sank slowly back beneath the surface, leaving barely a ripple. Arthur held Excalibur up to the light, and the blade sang. A note so pure it seemed to pierce the heart. The sword was perfectly balanced, neither too heavy nor too light. Along its length ran inscriptions in a language older than Latin, older than the tongues of men. The hilt was wrapped in leather so fine it might have been silk, and at the pommel sat a stone that shifted colors with the light. Now blue as deep ocean, now green as spring leaves, now bright as flame. When the boat returned to shore, the lady of the lake waited. In her hands she held a scabbard of such exquisite workmanship that it seemed almost to rival the sword itself. The leather was tooled with patterns of leaves and water, and it was bound with silver that gleamed like starlight. The blade is precious, the lady said, but the scabbard is worth 10 of the sword. While you wear it, you shall lose no blood, no matter how grievous your wounds. Guard it well, Arthur of Britain. Guard it better than you guard the blade. Arthur took the scabbard with reverence, sliding Excalibur home with a whisper of steel on leather. I shall, he promised. You have my word. The lady inclined her head. Words are wind, young king. But I see your heart, and it is true. Go now. Your kingdom waits, and there are greater battles ahead than the one you have just won." She turned and walked back across the water, each step leaving ripples that spread and faded. When she reached the center of the lake, she simply descended, as though stepping down stairs that existed only for her. The water closed over her head without a splash, and she was gone. Arthur and Merlin rode back to Camelot in silence, each lost in his own thoughts. But when they paused at a hilltop to rest the horses, Arthur drew Excalibur and held it up to catch the setting sun. "I feel different," he said softly, "as though I have become something more than I was." "You have accepted your fate," Merlin replied. "The boy who pulled a sword from stone is gone. In his place stands a king who bears Excalibur. Use it wisely, Arthur. Use it well." And in the gathering dusk, the sword gleamed like a promise made manifest, like hope given form in steel and starlight. With Excalibur at his side, Arthur's reign entered a new chapter. The rebel lords, hearing tales of the magical blade, thought twice about raising arms again. Peace, fragile as new ice, settled over Britain. And in that peace, Arthur's heart turned to thoughts of love, and of building something that would outlast even Excalibur's gleaming edge. Chapter 3: The Round Table and the Fellowship of Knights. It was in the spring following his victory that Arthur first beheld Guinevere. She was the daughter of King Leodegrance of Camelot, and she came to Camelot with her father's delegation to discuss matters of alliance and trade. Arthur had met princesses before. Women raised to smile and curtsy, to speak pleasantries and little else. Guinevere was nothing like them. She entered Camelot's great hall with her head high, her green eyes taking in everything with quick intelligence. Her hair was the color of autumn leaves touched by sun. Neither blonde nor red, but some magical shade between. She wore a gown of deep blue that moved like water when she walked, and around her throat hung a single pendant of white stone. But it was not her beauty that struck Arthur, though she was beautiful indeed. It was the way she met his gaze directly, without the usual deference or the calculated coyness he had come to expect from court ladies. When she spoke, her voice was clear and thoughtful. "My Lord King," she said, "my father sends his regards and his hope for continued friendship between our kingdoms." "Your father is most welcome," Arthur replied, "and his daughter doubly so." A small smile touched her lips. "Careful, my lord. Flattery too freely given loses all its value." Merlin, watching from the shadows, felt a chill touch his heart. He had seen this moment in his visions, had known it would come. And he knew, too, what lay at the end of this path. The love between Arthur and Guinevere would be real and deep and true. And it would also be the crack in Camelot's foundation through which sorrow would eventually pour. But he said nothing. Some fates cannot be averted, only endured. In the weeks that followed, Arthur and Guinevere walked in Camelot's gardens, spoke of philosophy and governance, rode together through the countryside. She challenged him in ways no one else dared, questioned his decisions not from malice but from genuine desire to understand. She made him think. She made him laugh. She made him feel, for the first time since becoming king, like a man rather than a crown. "I would have you as my queen," Arthur said one evening as they stood watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. "If you would have me as your husband." Guinevere turned to him, and in her eyes he saw both joy and something else. A shadow of uncertainty, perhaps, or of foreknowledge. "I would," she said softly, "though I fear I shall not always be the wife you deserve." "You will be the wife I need," Arthur replied, and drew her close. The wedding was held in midsummer, with all the pageantry befitting a king's marriage. Knights came from across Britain and beyond to witness the union. Banners flew from every tower, music filled the air, and the feast lasted 3 days and 3 nights. King Leodegrance, proud and beaming, gave his blessing to the match. And he brought with him a wedding gift that would change the course of history. "This table," Leodegrance said as servants unveiled the massive round structure in Camelot's great hall, "belonged to your father, Uther Pendragon. He gave it to me years ago, and I have kept it safe awaiting this day. Now it returns to where it belongs. To Uther's son. And to my daughter's home." The round table was a wonder to behold. Crafted from a single enormous piece of oak, though some whispered it was wood from the world tree itself, it could seat 150 knights. Its surface was polished smooth as glass, inlaid with silver in patterns of leaves and vines. And it was perfectly round, without beginning or end, without head or foot. Arthur walked around it slowly, running his hand along the wood. An idea was forming in his mind. A vision of something greater than himself, greater even than his kingdom. "I shall gather the finest knights in Christendom," he said, his voice filled with quiet passion. "Men of honor and courage, of mercy and strength. They shall sit at this table as brothers, for there shall be no place of higher rank here. No man shall sit above another. All shall be equal in fellowship." Merlin stepped forward. "A noble vision, my king. But nobility of purpose requires nobility of action. What shall be the code by which these knights live?" Arthur considered this. "They shall swear to use their strength only in defense of the weak. To give mercy to those who ask it. To champion the cause of the oppressed against the oppressor. To speak truth even when lies would serve them better. To seek justice, not vengeance. To honor all women and protect them from harm." He paused. "And above all, to serve the table and the realm before themselves. These are high ideals," Guinevere said softly. "Can mortal men maintain them?" "Perhaps not perfectly," Arthur replied. "But in the striving, we become better than we were. Is that not enough?" And so the Order of the Round Table was born. The first knights to take their places were those who had proven themselves in battle and in character. Sir Kay, Arthur's foster brother, whose loyalty had never wavered. King Pellinore, who had become one of Arthur's most trusted warriors after their fateful duel. Sir Bedivere, whose courage was matched only by his wisdom. Sir Ector, Arthur's foster father, honored for his years of faithful service. One by one they came forward, knelt before the round table, and spoke the oath that Arthur had composed. I swear by sword and by honor to uphold the laws of the Round Table, to defend those who cannot defend themselves, to speak no falsehood, to right wrongs wherever I may find them, to show mercy to the defeated and courtesy to all, to serve my king and my kingdom with all the strength that God has given me, so long as life endures. As each knight took his seat, his name appeared upon the wood before him in letters of gold, magic wrought by Merlin to mark each man's place. But one seat remained empty. It sat between Sir Percival and Sir Gawain, and upon its back were written words in script that seemed to shift and shimmer, Siege Perilous. "What is this?" asked Gawain, that knight fierce and proud, son of King Lot who had once rebelled but now sat in loyalty. "The Siege Perilous," Merlin said gravely. "The perilous seat. It waits for one knight only. The most pure of heart, the most perfect in virtue. Any other who sits there shall be destroyed, consumed by the very magic that protects it. Then why place it here at all?" Gawain asked. "Because perfection exists," Merlin replied, "even if we have not yet found it. The empty seat reminds us of what we strive toward. And one day, though I know not when, the destined knight shall come and claim it." News of the Round Table spread across the known world like ripples from a stone thrown into still water. Knights came from France and Germany, from Brittany and the Northlands, seeking to prove themselves worthy of a seat at Arthur's table. Camelot became a beacon of chivalry, a place where might served right, where honor was not an empty word but a living creed. The great hall rang with the sounds of fellowship. Laughter and debate, the clinking of goblets, the recounting of adventures. Knights would depart on quests and return with tales of dragons slain, maidens rescued, wrongs righted. The weak and the oppressed learned to cry out for Arthur, and know that help would come. These were the golden days, when Camelot shone like a jewel upon the earth. But even in those days of glory, Merlin watched and worried. He saw how Guinevere's eyes sometimes lingered on the empty seats, waiting for nights still to come. He saw how Arthur grew in kingship but also in burden, carrying the weight of his ideals like Atlas carrying the world. And he saw shadows gathering at the edges of the light, though he spoke of them to no one. For even the brightest day must eventually give way to dusk. The Round Table brought peace and purpose to Britain. But across the narrow sea, in distant Rome, there were those who remembered when Britain paid tribute to the empire, and who desired those days to return. The age of peace was about to be tested by the might of Rome itself. Chapter 4, The Roman Challenge. It was in the 3rd year of Arthur's reign that the Roman envoys arrived. They came in procession, bearing the standards of the Emperor Lucius. The golden eagle on crimson, symbol of an empire that had once ruled the known world and still dreamed of doing so again. Their armor gleamed, their horses were fine, their bearing spoke of absolute confidence in the power they represented. The chief envoy was a senator named Quintus, a man whose aristocratic features and cold eyes had looked upon kings and found them wanting. He strode into Camelot's great hall as though he owned it, barely glancing at the assembled knights of the Round Table. "Arthur of Britain," he said, not bothering with honorifics or courtesy. "I bring word from Lucius, Emperor of Rome, rightful master of all civilized lands." Arthur, seated in his chair with Excalibur across his knees and Guinevere at his side, regarded the envoy calmly. "Speak then." Quintus unrolled a scroll and began to read, his voice dripping with practiced arrogance. "Know that Britain has been, since the time of the divine Caesar, a province of Rome. Your continued independence is an insult to imperial dignity. The Emperor Lucius, in his mercy, offers you this choice. Bend knee and pay tribute as your ancestors did, or face the full might of Rome's legions." A murmur ran through the assembled knights. Several hands went to sword hilts, but Arthur raised one hand, and silence fell. "Tell me," the king said mildly, "by what right does Lucius claim Britain?" "By the right of conquest," Quintus replied. "Caesar conquered these lands." "Caesar conquered much," Arthur interrupted, "and lost much. Rome's eagles have not flown over Britain in my lifetime, nor in my father's, nor in his father's before him. If ancient conquest grants perpetual ownership, then surely I might claim Rome itself, for Brutus of Troy, my ancestor, once held those lands." Quintus's face darkened. "You dare mock the emperor?" "I dare speak truth," Arthur said, and now steel entered his voice. "Return to your emperor. Tell him that Arthur of Britain acknowledges no master save God. Tell him that if he wishes tribute, he should come and collect it himself, but he should bring his legions, for he will need them." Sir Gawain, sitting at the Round Table, rose to his feet. "My Lord King," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall, "give me leave to accompany these envoys back to Rome. I would deliver our answer in person." Arthur smiled grimly. "You would start a war before its time, Gawain. No, let them carry our words. Words will be enough." Quintus rolled up his scroll with shaking hands. "You will regret this insolence," he hissed. "Perhaps," Arthur replied, "but I will regret it as a free man, not as Rome's subject. Go now, before my knights forget the sacred nature of envoys." When the Romans had departed, Arthur called a council of his greatest knights. They gathered around the Round Table as the evening shadows lengthened across the hall. "Rome will come," Arthur said without preamble. "Lucius cannot let such defiance stand, not if he wishes to maintain his empire's prestige. We must prepare for war. Sir Lancelot, newly arrived at Camelot and already renowned as the finest knight in Christendom, leaned forward. "Then let us carry the war to him, my lord. Let us meet Rome on ground of our choosing, not wait for their legions to land on our shores." "You counsel invasion?" asked Sir Bedivere. "I counsel initiative," Lancelot replied. "Rome expects us to cower behind our walls. Let us surprise them." Arthur considered this, his fingers drumming lightly on the table. "Merlin, what say you?" The wizard, standing in shadow as was his wont, stepped forward. "I say that Lancelot speaks wisely. Rome's strength lies in her ability to bring overwhelming force to bear. But her empire is vast, her legions scattered. If you move swiftly, you can meet Lucius before he fully musters his strength." And so the decision was made. Britain would go to war. The preparations took months. Smiths worked day and night forging armor and weapons. Ships were built or commandeered. Knights from across the realm gathered their retinues. The Round Table would ride to war as a brotherhood, each knight bringing his men, until Arthur commanded an army of thousands. On the eve of departure, Arthur walked in the garden with Guinevere. The summer air was sweet with the scent of roses, and somewhere a nightingale sang its liquid song. "I must leave the kingdom in trusted hands," Arthur said. "Mordred is capable, and Sir Baldwin will counsel him well." Guinevere nodded, though her face was troubled. Mordred was Arthur's nephew, son of King Lot and Arthur's half-sister Morgause. Though the true circumstances of his birth were known to very few, he was young, ambitious, and skilled. But there was something in his eyes that made Guinevere uneasy. "Do you trust him?" she asked softly. Arthur hesitated. "I trust that he understands the consequences of betrayal, and I trust in your wisdom to guide him if he strays." He took her hands in his. "I do not go seeking glory, Guinevere. I go because if Rome is not answered, every petty king will think Britain weak, and we shall have no peace." "I know," she whispered, "but that does not make the parting easier." They stood in silence, holding each other as the stars emerged one by one above them. Neither spoke the fear that haunted both their hearts. That wars, even just wars, do not always end as those who start them hope. Chapter 5: The Continental Campaign. The fleet set sail with the summer sun bright upon the water. 100 ships and more, their sails billowing in favorable winds, carrying the flower of British knighthood toward the continent. Arthur stood at the prow of the lead vessel, Excalibur at his side, watching the white cliffs of Dover recede into the distance. Beside him, Sir Kay and Sir Lancelot stood silent, each lost in his own thoughts. They landed in Brittany, where the local lords welcomed them as liberators. News had reached these shores of Arthur's defiance of Rome, and many who chafed under imperial taxation saw in the British king a champion of independence. But before Arthur could march on to meet Lucius's legions, word came of a terror that plagued the countryside. A giant had taken up residence on Mont Saint-Michel, that rocky island that rose from the sea like a sentinel. This giant, a creature of unnatural size and strength, had been raiding the nearby villages, carrying off livestock and, on one terrible night, the young niece of the local duke. "We cannot march past such evil," Arthur said when his knights urged him to leave the matter to local authorities. "What use is our round table if we ignore the cries of the suffering? We go to mourn Saint Michel." They reached the island at dusk, when the tide was out and the causeway was passable. The rocky mount rose before them, dark and forbidding. At its peak, they could see the glow of a great fire. "I shall go alone," Arthur said, and raised his hand before his knights could protest. "This is not a task for armies. It is a task for one man and one sword." Sir Bedivere alone accompanied him, for someone needed to bear witness if the king should fall. Together they climbed the rocky path, past the bones of the giant's previous victims, following the sound of terrible laughter that echoed off stone. The giant was even larger than the tales had told, perhaps 20 feet tall, with arms like tree trunks and a face that was a nightmare made flesh. He sat before his fire, gnawing on a roasted ox, bones cracking between his teeth like kindling. When he saw Arthur, the giant laughed, a sound like boulders tumbling down a mountain. "A little king come to play," the monster roared. "Your bones will make fine toothpicks." The battle was terrible and strange. The giant wielded a club the size of a young oak tree, and when he swung it, the air itself seemed to scream. Arthur dodged and rolled, using speed where strength would fail. Excalibur's edge found flesh again and again, opening wounds that would have killed a normal man but only enraged the giant. They fought across the rocky summit, the giant roaring his fury, Arthur grim and determined. Once the club caught him a glancing blow that sent him tumbling, and he felt ribs crack despite the protection of the magical scabbard. But he rose again, as he always rose. The end came when Arthur dodged beneath a massive swing and drove Excalibur deep into the giant's chest. The blade, forged in Avalon, pierced the creature's heart as though it were paper. The giant staggered, eyes wide with disbelief, and toppled backward. The ground shook when he fell. Arthur stood over the body, breathing hard, Excalibur dripping with black blood. Bedivere rushed to his side, and together they found the duke's niece, traumatized but alive, hidden in the giant's cave. When they returned to camp with the girl, word of Arthur's deed spread like wildfire. The British knights cheered their king. The local population hailed him as a hero. And even among the enemy, when the tale reached Roman ears, there were those who felt a chill of apprehension. This was no ordinary king they faced, but something else, something that walked in legend's light. The armies met on the plains near Soissons, in the heat of high summer. Imagine two forces of such magnitude that the earth trembled beneath their tread. On one side, the legions of Rome, disciplined, experienced, armored in the red and gold of empire. On the other, the knights of Britain and their allied forces. Gleaming in polished steel, their banners showing the red dragon of Pendragon alongside the hundreds of heraldic devices of the Round Table. Emperor Lucius himself commanded the Roman forces, surrounded by his Praetorian Guard. He had expected to face barbarians. Instead, he faced an army that matched his own in discipline and surpassed it in individual valor. The battle began at dawn and raged until the sun stood high overhead. Sir Lancelot led the first cavalry charge, his lance striking like lightning, his sword reaping a terrible harvest. Sir Gawain fought as though possessed by battle fury, his strength seeming to grow as the sun climbed higher, for Gawain had the gift that his strength tripled between dawn and noon. Sir Kay held the left flank against overwhelming numbers, refusing to yield a single step. And Arthur, bearing Excalibur, fought in the thick of the battle like a force of nature. The magical blade sang through the air, parting armor and weapons as though they were made of shadows. Where Arthur rode, the Romans gave ground. The turning point came when Arthur and Lucius met face to face in the chaos of battle. The emperor was no coward, he was a soldier who had earned his throne through warfare. But he was mortal, and Excalibur was not a mortal blade. They exchanged 3 blows. On the 4th, Arthur's sword found its mark, and Lucius fell from his horse, never to rise again. When word spread that the emperor had fallen, the Roman army's resolve crumbled. Some fought on with the desperation of the doomed. Others threw down their weapons and fled. By afternoon, the Battle of Soissons was over, and Arthur stood victorious upon a field painted red with sacrifice. His knights urged him to march on Rome itself, to claim the imperial throne that now lay empty. With Lucius dead and the army destroyed, none could stop them. But Arthur shook his head. "We came to prove that Britain is no man's province," he said, weary beyond words. "We have proven it. To conquer Rome would make us conquerors, and I have no wish to build an empire. I wish only to go home." And so they did. The journey back was triumphant. Cities that had once paid tribute to Rome now sent delegations to honor Arthur. Kings and princes sought alliances. The name of Camelot was spoken with reverence from the Mediterranean to the northern seas. When the fleet returned to Britain, crowds lined the shores to welcome them. Songs were sung of the great victory. Arthur was hailed not just as King of Britain, but as the greatest king in Christendom. The Round Table reconvened in Camelot's great hall, and there was feasting and celebration. New knights had proven themselves in battle and now took their seats at the table, their names appearing in golden letters upon the wood. Arthur stood and raised his cup. "To the fellowship of the Round Table," he said. "May we use our strength always in the service of justice. May we remember that we fought not for conquest, but for freedom. May we be worthy of the trust that has been placed in us." To the Round Table, the knights roared in unison, and the sound echoed from the rafters like thunder. That night, as Camelot celebrated, Merlin stood upon the battlements looking out at the stars. His ancient heart was both glad and heavy. He had seen this golden moment in his visions, had known it would come. But he had also seen what lay beyond. Greatness achieved is greatness that must eventually be tested. and in the testing, even the mightiest kingdoms can fall. And so we come to the end of this episode in Arthur's tale. We have walked with him from desperate battle to miraculous gift, from the breaking of one sword to the claiming of another. We have witnessed the birth of the Round Table and seen Arthur prove his worth against the might of empires. The young king who pulled a sword from stone has become the great king who bears Excalibur. The scattered kingdom has been forged into a realm united. And Camelot shines like a beacon, calling all who seek honor and justice to its banner. These are the golden days, the days when men believe that virtue can triumph, that might can serve right, that a fellowship of true hearts can change the world. But every story has its seasons, and summer, however bright, must eventually yield to autumn. In our next tale, we shall meet the greatest knight who ever lived, Sir Lancelot of the Lake. We shall witness deeds of valor beyond imagining, quests both glorious and terrible, and the seeds of a love that will shake Camelot to its foundations. But that is a story for another night. For now, let Arthur's triumph be enough. Let the image of Camelot at its height linger in your mind as you drift toward sleep, those shining towers, those noble knights, that round table where all are equal in fellowship. Rest well, dear listener. Let these tales carry you gently into dreams. Until we meet again, may your sleep be peaceful, and may your own legends be worthy of telling. Good night. May the Round Table protect your peace.